Okay, so in this video we're going to select the user from here, and then we're going to view the conversation and the user in this chat box component. How we're going to do that? Let's go back to our Visual Studio. If you go down to our Livewire blade files, if you open main, you're going to see that we're working with 3 Livewire components. This 1, 2, 3. Currently we're working with the Livewire, this Livewire component. So when we click a user in this Livewire component, we're going to share the data to these 2 other components. So let's go back to our chat list real quick. In here, we're going to emit an event. This, or emit to. Here, we're going to type chat.chatbox. All right. So we're going to pass a few data here. Here, add some inverted commas. Load conversation. All right. Next, we're going to pass a few parameters in here, and these are going to be the selected conversation itself and the receiver instance. Just copy that, paste it in here, and then copy that receiver instance as a second parameter, and then paste it in there. Okay, so after creating this, now we're going to go to our chat box component. So let's go to our chat box here in the File Explorer. Open chat box. In here, we're going to create an event listener. So here, type protected $listeners. Here, type load conversation. I type a comma and then copy this same load conversation. I'm going to create a function. We're going to call this load conversation. Here, we're going to type 2 parameters. First, as you can see in here, we pass the conversation as a model, and then the receiver instance as a model too. So here, we're going to type this. Let's inject the conversation here. $conversation, comma. Let's also inject the user. Receiver, $receiver. So in here, we're going to type this selected conversation is equals to this conversation. So copy that, paste it. Also, I'm going to assign the receiver instance. So this receiver instance is equals to the receiver here. Let's make this model. In the top here, type public, $that. So type public $receiver. Alright, next we're going to load the messages that we want here. This messages count is equals to get the message model where conversation ID is equals to this selected conversation ID. Paste that and then just get ID. Alright, then in the end here, type count, add a semicolon. Make sure there's here, make this correct. $this messages is equals to message model where conversation ID is equals to, copy that, this conversation ID. So here type skip messages count minus, here we need a variable here like maybe 45, but let's make it, let's add a variable here on top. Public paginate variable, 10 messages at first. So here minus this paginate variable, take this paginate var. So I'm going to take this one now. Now this is a cool feature which allows us to reduce the strain on the database server request, so we can only load a few messages at first. And then I'm going to load more as we scroll. So here don't forget the get right there. So we have these messages. Let's also add another public function here called messages. All right, now that we have that covered, we can just test it by doing die and dump. Let's check if we're actually receiving this here. $conversation, $receiver when we click. So in our chat list, we're gonna remove this comment here. If we go refresh, if we click, all right, so we're actually receiving the conversations and the user that we want to chat with here, user 6, and the conversation here, user 6. The current user now is 2, receiver 6 and user 6. So we are successfully sending the messages to our other component, like sharing data. So now that we have this in here, it is showing successfully. Let's comment that. We're going to assign the conversation to the selected conversation receiver receiver instance here, and then I'm going to get all the messages related to this conversation here. Make sure it's correct here, conversation. All right, it's correct, conversation ID. So we're now going to go to our blade component. So go to the chat box blade component. First, let's delete these static messages. Message body me. Let's just nest it like that and like that. All right, let's also delete this. Let's just remain with one of these. Here we're going to nest this into an if statement. We're going to check if a conversation has been created upon loading. Otherwise, it's going to give us an error because it's going to show now if selected conversation. Then we're going to show all the data in here. Let's copy the body to that, paste it in there. Or else, just before the end if, type at else. We're going to type no conversation selected. Here to the top, we're going to now set the name of the receiver. Since we have the receiver instance in here, we're going to use this to now set the name of the blade file here. So let's set this and type receiver instance name. All right, if we go back, if I refresh, it's going to show no conversation selected, and if I click, it's going to show Tom, we change the name. If I click, it's going to show log, which also shows up here, the same name here, the same name here, and I click there again, Tom, same name here, same name there. So now let's set the messages that are within this conversation. So let's go back to, let's get the user ID, receiver instance ID on this after photos ID 231, whatever number you put, get two curly brackets there, and then just copy that, paste it in here, and then get the ID, so we can change the image according to the user. All right, so here we're going to remove this. We're going to now load the messages from these messages here. We're going to now show the message in our chat box. So let's go back here at for each $messages as $message. Right, now we're going to wrap this into the message body, this one. Right, so let's copy this for each outside the body here, and then let's copy this message body, copy that, paste it in here. So I'm going to load the messages in here. So here, message, copy that, two curly brackets, $, body, we're going to get the body in here. And then here, we're going to get the, copy that, remove that, message, we'll get the time here, created at, all right. Then next, we're going to click a format. Let's make this I'm going to want to show AM and PM. A. All right, then come down here. Let's create a quick bootstrap class. Right, copy this no chat selected, paste here, and that's make empty top 5. Right, now if you go back to our Chrome, refresh, now we have this no conversation selected, and if we click here, it's going to bring the conversation of Tom, name here, name comes here, and the only message that we have with Tom. And with log, there's a blank message, but as you can see when you click on log, the name will appear here and the message. We're going to add more messages later. All right, if you can see, our chat component is responsive but not responding to our clicks on small devices. So let's take care of that. So real quick, we're going to go back to our Visual Studio. Then let's go to the chat box. In here, after the messages have been loaded, we are going to dispatch a browser event. So here, real quick, type this, chat selected, and then copy this. And then let's go to our main Livewire chat in the views, Livewire chat main. Okay, so in our main here, we're gonna scroll down, and then here at the bottom, we're gonna write a JavaScript. And then in here, I'm gonna add an event listener. So window chat selected. Here we're gonna add a comma event is equals to, add curly brackets, add a semicolon in the end. In here, I'm gonna add if window dot inner width is less than 768, like on tablets and mobile. We are going to hide these and show that. Right, so here down below, $dot copy this chat list container, paste it here, add dot hide, do the same, copy that, and then copy this chat box container, paste it in here, show. All right, and then next we're going to add another event listener. We're going to use jQuery now. Window resize function, open brackets, outside it add some curly brackets, and here quickly add the semicolon. Never forget the semicolon. If window inner width greater than 768 pixels, and then we're going to copy this and we're going to show both of these like that. Show. So when the event is fired, the chat selected, and if the browser is less than 768, it's going to hide the chat list and show the chat box. And on resize, if the width is greater than the tablet, we're going to show both of them. So let's go back to our browser. Alright, here no conversation selected. If I resize the browser, click, and then resize again, it's going to show the messages here. Before it was not showing. So this is good now for us. When I click here, it's showing, refresh, and then when I go back, I select and then resize the browser, is going to show our chat box. Now let's make this return function work too. So here real quick, in the same script just below, add another event listener here, add a comma here, add dot return comma function. In here now we're going to invoke this function, the opposite of this one. Just copy these two classes, paste it. So we're gonna hide, show this one, and then hide this one. All right, when we click the chat container here, the return. So let's go back in here, let us refresh. If I click show, I click on log, it's showing like that. I click on Tom, it's showing Tom. When I click back, it's gonna bring me back here. All right, so now it's working like a normal chat, you would say chat system so far. I click on there, it will show on the big screen, and I scroll down. If I click there, it's going to show. I scroll back, just like that. Okay, so in the next video, I'm going to focus on this send message component.